and welcome to our first ever Syncari 101. The intent is to create a bi-weekly series around just concepts in Syncari, showing off all the great, powerful things you can do on the Syncari platform. Before we get into the content for today, where we're going to talk about our brand new product, which is Syncari Insights, just a few housekeeping items. First, a recording of this webinar will be available and distributed to your inbox within 24 hours of the live event. Just a matter of how quickly we can turn it around and push it through our SDR engine. And then next, questions can be submitted really at any time. And we encourage you to submit those using the chat window, not the Q&A portal. So just keep the interactions coming in that chat window on the right-hand side of your Zoom portal, which a few of you have already figured out. Just as by way of introduction, my name is Aaron Landgraf. I'm the head of marketing here at Syncari. I joined Syncari after almost a decade at MuleSoft and then at Salesforce post-acquisition. So spent a lot of time in the integration space, and I'm very excited to see some of the core concepts that really powered the movement towards being, a connected enterprise for IT starting to show up more and more in RevOps centric conversations. Just tells me that more and more people are being empowered to bring these concepts into their own domains. And with that, I'll pause and have Greg introduce himself.
Okay, and I'm Greg Meyer. I'm the product manager here at Syncari, and I liked the product so much as a customer that joined the company about a year ago, and like Aaron, have a deep background in automation and ops, and really excited to talk about the direction that we're going with Insights today.
Yeah, great. How are we delivering on some of the roadmap capabilities that you had identified as a customer? We at 50% yet?
I think that the best way to advance your roadmap items is to join the company.
There you go. I love it.
So,
smart man.
There you go.
Okay. So before we get into insights, just a quick level setting and background on really why Syncari exists as a company and why we are so excited about what's happening in the market, particularly around RevOps and data. So top level, right? I don't think anybody can disagree that businesses continue to struggle with aligning data and processes across functions, right? We have all stood up siloed best practices, siloed systems in our own domains. And what we experience as a result of that is that we're missing a shared view of data, metrics, and processes across the customer journey. So a few new trends have emerged to address this problem. One is the instantiation of operations teams, marketing ops, sales ops, customer success ops, and now the emergence of revenue operations to try to address this cross-business alignment. And the other really interesting trend that we spent a lot of time this following is that the modern data solutions, like the modern data stack, they in theory address this problem, but in practice actually become very complex to manage and maintain. They become very expensive to operate, and ultimately just create more inconsistency in your data across systems. And why this problem is so important to solve? Well, some Forrester research tells us that companies that actually are successful in aligning people, process, data, and technology across the customer journey experience 36% more revenue growth and 28% more profitability. So clearly cracking this code provides some pretty significant ROI for businesses that are able to do it. Some of the other patterns that, again, we see across the conversations that we have with our customers is that there's some limitations in how people are even approaching solutions, identifying and crafting solutions to this problem to date, right? And it happens almost accidentally, somewhat organically, right? When you're in startup mode, and you have a few, systems or sources of truth in marketing, sales, and customer success, you're dependent upon the native integrations, and you do a lot of spreadsheet ops to move data between systems and craft your metrics, right? And that works. It works because your processes aren't that complex, and the manual work doesn't necessarily take up too much of your time. But as systems grow, right? As the number of systems grow, as the number of people that need access to data starts to increase within your org, we notice that organizations start trying to cross this automation chasm right? And they introduce process automation tools that are often very specific to the domain in which they are operating, like a Celigo between NetSuite and Salesforce, or a Lean Data between Salesforce and your marketing automation platform, to help just improve the efficiency of processes between systems. And what happens as you stand 2, 3, 4 of these system or solutions up inside of your org is that you actually end up fracturing your business logic. Your business logic gets trapped inside of these systems, or maybe within, an Apex coded process that exists within Salesforce itself. And it gets very difficult then to understand what your business logic looks like, again, across that customer journey. And then what we see a lot of today for more mature organizations that have some of this kind of growth infrastructure in place is that there's a mandate to become more data-driven. They put a data warehouse in the middle of all these systems, and they pump a bunch of data into that data warehouse with an ETL solution like Fivetran. And then you can see all the other solutions in the modern data stack that get piled on top of this to create a very complex, again, brittle architecture. And what we see is that this data warehouse actually just becomes another data silo, right? And because not everybody has access to data within that data warehouse silo, shadow metrics emerge, and you get different points of view on the health of your business, which is really problematic. And to a large extent, that's what we're here to talk about today. For those of you who haven't been introduced to Syncari, right, we take a very unique approach to solving this problem. And yes, we're going to talk about our reporting and dashboarding and our insight-centric capabilities today, but it's very important for you to understand that in some ways we take an inside-out view to this problem, inside-out approach, or data-first approach to solving this problem. And it starts with aligning your data, and more importantly, aligning your go-to-market teams with a trusted and distributed and shared version of that data, right? And we help you do this by giving you no-code tools, functions, and actions to unify and dedupe data across every system in your go-to-market stack, and allowing you to really create, a true golden customer data model for how you want your customers to look across all those systems of record, and then allow you, again, with no-code rules and policies to govern that record and all those records across systems so that they stay up to date and clean and accurate over time, right? And what we unlock then for customers is that you're actually distributing a version of truth for your customers across every system, getting the right data to the right place at the right time, right? And then once you have this unified version of your data, what Syncari allows you to do is analyze performance, not only with shared data, but also with shared metrics. You can calculate KPIs, which again are ideas about how you measure the health of your business, not only with shared data, but also with shared logic. We're going to go very deeply on this topic of the importance of having shared logic today. And with shared data and shared logic, you can actually visualize full funnel performance, actually get an understanding of what's happening across every phase in the customer lifecycle, and ultimately eliminate some of the time-wasting conversations that emerge when you have shadow metrics or biased metrics across executive teams, across departments, right? And nobody's doing this intentionally. It's just that they don't have few organizations have gotten to a place where teams are operating with a shared understanding of business health, right? And then the last bit, sorry for the animation issues here. The last bit is around data activation, right? It is one thing to have a unified view of your business and have shared and consistent metrics across your business, shared across executive stakeholders. And it's another very important thing to make sure that data is activated in near real time so that the people who need it can actually use it to create awesome customer experiences or to stand up new marketing or sales programs to address emerging market opportunities. So with Syncari, what we allow you to do with our powerful multi-directional sync engine is sync key revenue signals on any key data change across every system in your go-to-market tech stack. Imagine, if you will, every process that needs to fire when the opportunity changes to closed won, right? How do you go about coordinating those processes today? In all likelihood, it touches multiple processes, multiple systems that are spread out across your tech stack. With Syncari, you can manage and coordinate all of that from one central place. We also allow you to build personalized alerts and notifications, knowing that not every rep or human within your organization operates out of, say, Salesforce. You might be using Slack as your digital HQ. How do you surface insights and information within Slack so that people, again, can take action in near real time as better data emerges? And then I already touched in part on the ability to automate some of these interconnected workflows that need to fire when these revenue signals on data changes emerge. Okay, so that is Syncari in a nutshell. It's one complete platform to align, analyze, and activate trusted data across your tech stack, all with no code, designed specifically for revenue operations professionals. So, Greg, I wanted to take a moment here to invite you into this conversation now. And, we spent a lot of time in our prep talking about the big picture, right? The big picture being, thinking about how you define business logic at the business level, not at the system level. Greg, what does this mean to you? And what are some of the challenges that emerge when people, are defining business logic at the system level?
Yeah, Aaron, great question. I mean, if you think of data as the cross-system information that is in your go-to-market, whether it's coming from a product usage data or whether it's coming from marketing automation data or sales automation data, that you need to both be able to store that information in a way that makes sense and then be able to figure out what to do with it. And we, talked a little bit about Syncari as the way to make it possible to integrate data from that system. But really what we're talking about is building blocks for, again, both data and business logic. And when I think of data, I think not only of the information that you're pulling in from a system, like, hey, how many opportunities reached a certain state, or what is happening with product usage data and aggregating for a customer, but also like, how do you apply that in both systems? If you're thinking about how I apply that for a lead that is in marketing automation or an existing contact that might be in your Salesforce. This is basically a way to think about a new kind of grammar in your GTM for creating these business concepts.
Yeah, I laugh because I am shocked sometimes at how simple the solutions to these problems can be, but how hard it is to actually execute on them. Like, as an example, I know that there are reports within our own Salesforce instance at Syncari that are using different bits of logic for how we calculate, stage 2 opportunities. And as a result, we come to slightly different conclusions on our pipeline health, right? And it's something so simple, but when you apply it at scale, it can have pretty significant business impacts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about the role of the person within the organization who would define a metric and the role of the person who would consume it because they want to make a report, they're not always the same person. But making sure that that definition is the same everywhere that is used, that's super powerful.
Yeah. So, Greg, to keep our audience who's primed to learn more about Syncari Insights on the ready, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit more about what we're doing around Syncari Insights and where we are today and where we're going, that'd be awesome.
Sure, that's great, Aaron. So where we are today is we are creating a technology platform to take the data, the cross-system information that you are storing in Syncari, the schema, the way that you are storing that data, and then the business logic, and we're visualizing it in easy to use data cards. So there's sort of an underlying idea here of a data set, and you can imagine a data set as a query that you would run against those entities. So a data set might be a calculation to help you understand conversion rate or open pipeline or net dollar retention. That underneath that, there is data that needs to be pulled from your existing system that would help you understand something that you need to know about your business. what we want to do is then visualize that data in common formats like line or a bar graph or column or a table, and then make it possible for you to report on that data across systems. So where we are today is that we have produced an initial preview release with technology content. So you can go ahead and show that if you'd like. So when you go into a Syncari instance, you will see example data showing you the types of reports that are possible. So for example, here in a sales by quarter, we have a bar graph showing, or sorry, a column graph showing, opportunity data summed up over quarter. We have a sales by type showing, and you could deselect one of those series. This is an example of a line graph with multiple series. We have a metric that will show you like a summed up amount calculation. And each of these data cards have a place to find the definition of that card. And then also, if you go down to the table of accounts by sales, the table data can be sorted and arranged, as you see fit. And then we also have a stack column graph. So if you have multiple series that you're looking at pipeline types, for example, and this is an actual live instance. So this is what you could see today. And when you upgrade your Syncari instance in order to access insights, then you'll gain access to a number of different dashboards we've also pre-configured.
And Greg, for the folks who've never seen Syncari before, like where is this data coming from and where is it stored?
Yeah, great point. So Syncari allows you to connect multiple systems. We call them synapses, and synapses connect up to existing GTM components like a Salesforce or Marketo or a database. And we allow you to bring information into the system that can be copied into core objects, or that are either copies of that other system, or let's say a new kind of entity that you're creating that rolls up information across those things. So when we talked before about product usage data, you might want to count how many times a contact shows up in a product usage set, or you might want to do different kinds of calculations.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful then to maybe just walk through, a bit of our future state on how some of these cards will be created. I know authoring is part of our vision. So let me flip back through to the slides then, Greg, and just talk through how the process of creating these cards will actually play out for our customers.
Awesome. So we talked about, this is something that our teams are working on right now for delivery in Q4. And we talked about a data set, and just to orient you to how you will be creating that, a data set could be a query against one of those existing entities. In this screen, we're showing opportunity data and accounts. And basically, if you could think of Syncari as a flexible data warehouse that you could query against, you're able to look at a sum of opportunity data to find out live data for a opportunities in stage, or you might have other information that you're trying to pull from, like a calculation for ARR, a calculation for lifetime value or win rate, that is going to be available in this data set as well. So think of data sets as building blocks that could be used to calculate an individual item or a series of data.
And Greg, if we map this back to that bigger picture around shared data and shared logic, right? Like how does this relate to that big picture view we discussed earlier?
If you think about the bigger picture, we talked about the business logic and also the schema of how we're storing that data. So this is a way to take that data that has been stored across objects, to visualize that data and make it available to anyone in the organization.
Yeah, I cannot tell you how many times I experience unintentional but very disruptive friction when I'm trying to do reports within Salesforce, and I can't do cross-object reporting without some pretty significant heavy lifting. So
yeah, absolutely. You see implied here that we have selected for you automatically what objects join with each other. So one of the challenges that you've probably done if you've tried to make a report in Tableau or Salesforce or something, is trying to figure out how to stitch the data together. And you might even know, hey, I think that this account ID record over here matches to this contact record over there, but you're not sure like what field is that and what's the data type. We want to make that really easy for you to do in a no code kind of way.
got it. Awesome. Anything else on this view, Greg?
You know, I think that the other thing to consider as you are looking at this and teasing out possible things, there's an advanced mode here. We're going to enable folks who know a bit more about querying to do a SQL-like query in the future. So that's going to be a really exciting feature that is going to come along with this eventually.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've dabbled in writing my own SQL, but I see filters and joins and groupings and sorting. So basically just two different interfaces to the same type of...
Exactly. The goal here is to make it easy for a person who's moderately technical who knows generally where the information is to produce a report that they could then visualize into a beautiful card.
Got it.
So if you go on to the next slide, we can talk about like, what does that look like when you're actually taking that data set or data sets and then visualizing into a card? We want to make it really easy for folks to author data and select from, you know, these available types, you know, column and bar, and we're going to have a funnel graph and a number of different kinds of visualizations that let you either specify for folks who are viewing it, hey, here's a specific date range, or maybe you want to let them choose. Those are going to be different kinds of authoring options.
Got it.
And then if you go on, the end product is going to be a beautiful dashboard. And what you're looking at here is the mock-up of that authoring view where you can pull cards from a library. And you can also jump into the kind of authoring that you would do with data sets.
And the intent I see here is that you could have, you know, multiple dashboards by department with potentially, you know, shared cards, right? And shared data and shared logic.
Yeah, exactly. And if you squint, you can see how, you know, if you're familiar with some of the other concepts that we have in Syncari, like the quick start, which is able to store a configured pipeline, you can see a way to being able to provide canned data cards and data sets that go along with those synapses so that you can get up to speed on a particular cross-object function a lot faster. So instead of having to build all of your data cards, data sets from scratch, this will give us the technology framework to be able to deliver, you know, GTM reporting all in one with very little code.
All right. And Greg, to preempt some of the questions, right? Like when will this when will these capabilities be, well, what's available today, and when will these capabilities come online?
Sure. So today we have the technology framework that allows you to enable insights, and we have 4 pre-configured dashboards that pull from your actual data. So there's a dashboard for the executive function, there's a sales dashboard, marketing, and success. And those correspond to pipelines that are pulling from your Syncari instance if you've upgraded to have that feature. And this authoring capability, the ability to author data sets, data cards, and dashboards, we're looking to have that out early Q4.
Awesome. Yeah, so the way I think about it is, you know, for those of you who are thinking about an investment in Syncari and haven't started yet, by the time you go through the process of unifying your data in Syncari, cleaning it up and deduping it, these capabilities to, you know, author data cards will be coming online. So very excited to see this come to life. Greg, for our existing customers, how should they go about getting access to Insights?
Aaron, our existing customers, if they are interested in taking this for a spin, should go ahead and talk to their CS contact or their account executive contact, and they can learn more about getting access to the feature.
Yeah, it's a matter of us just turning on the capability in your instance. And Greg, one other question: when, like, if I'm a customer or a prospective customer and I have existing investments in BI, or I'm doing a decent enough job of reporting inside of my Salesforce instance, right? Like, how should I think about insights relative to what I'm already doing?
Well, I would think about the first step of this is to audit or catalog what you're doing today, and to, in the same way that you would make a customer journey map, you might think about making a capability or data reporting map that is going to identify, like, here are the key outputs that I need to run my organization. And ask yourself, like, does that Salesforce report or does that existing Tableau report meet those needs? Or maybe there's some extra data that gets folded in that is typically added after the fact when you're sharing with external folks. And then, basically map, where does that data come from? Because it should be possible to take your existing reports, and once you connect up, let's say you had Salesforce reports, if you connect up your Salesforce objects where that data is happening, sync that data into Syncari, and the definition of that report, we should be able to create that report right here. And even better, extend it by enabling you to relate it to other objects within Salesforce that might be kind of hard to reach with existing reporting.
Awesome. All right, well, Greg, just so I can get back into normal screen share mode, I see lots of conversation happening in the chat. So I'm going to exit out and open it up for broader Q&A if folks have it. And while I do that, Greg, we started the conversation around insights in the land of big picture thinking, right? Having shared data and shared logic, right? When you think about the future of having shared logic across all of your reports and dashboards across your business, like where does your mind go? What do you think organizations start thinking about, even outside of the context of Syncari, just to get them one step in the right direction on getting shared logic across their business?
I mean, outside of the the concepts that we're talking about here, I would encourage them to think about, like, what is the way that we would ideally engage with a customer? If you were in an office and you had a question that came in from a customer, you walk down the hall and you might say, hey, sales team, how's that customer doing? And then you might walk down to customer success and say, is this customer having problems? And then maybe you might walk down to finance and say, has this customer paid recently? And all of that information together is going to help you understand both their happiness level, their, maybe the way that they are using your product. It's going to give you a better picture of that customer. And I think Insights is the latest way that we are taking that information that is kind of distributed through the organization and making it easier for everyone within the organization to get, an instant read on.
Speaking of everyone, how do we think about who has access to these visualizations, right? Because not everybody's a Syncari user, but everybody potentially is a consumer of some of the insights being presented by Syncari.
Yeah, so the way we're thinking about this is that the capability is going to be indexed on the number of authors, but the number of viewers is going to be open to any organization that has Syncari as a product. So whether that is the ability to easily share one of these cards, by copying an image, or whether it is some larger method of viewing it, we are exploring a lot of those capabilities.
Awesome. Okay. And for the audience, again, I see lots of great chat happening, and Nick, thanks for chiming in and making sure that questions are being answered as we go. If there are any additional questions, please let us know. Greg, anything else top of mind for you that you think is important to share with the audience?
I mean, top of mind for me is that one of the things that bugged me most about Salesforce reports and dashboards is that they were limited to 20 tiles in a dashboard, and we think that's sort of a silly limit. So we're going to get rid of that.
Yeah, in the land of unlimited scroll, right? Why can I not just have all?
Exactly, exactly. I think that the other thing to consider is that this is the first step in a longer roadmap of insights capabilities. And once you have the ability to store this data and to, in the future, snapshot it over time, it opens up a lot of possibilities around tracking performance against a goal, or again, if you had gone through that mapping exercise as an organization, you've said, hey, we think that MQLs or product qualified leads or key customers is very, very important. You might think about what are the inputs to that, and how do you start mapping the changes to those inputs and sharing them earlier with your organization so that you have more people who are basically rowing the same way.
Got it. And Greg, I don't know if you saw Melanie's question come in, right? She's asking about how we tackle data normalization, right? Specifically around HubSpot and how HubSpot requires data to look a certain way.
That's a core capability of our core platform, which is that we're really good at taking data that is in different shapes, bringing it together onto a common schema, like for a person or an account, and cleaning it up and enhancing it along the way.
Yeah, Melanie, I'm not sure if you were able to catch the beginning of the webinar, but what is so unique about Syncari is that everything inside of the platform is data model driven. And so what Greg is describing is that in Syncari, you start with defining, right, your ideal data model for your customers, inclusive of, how you want what you want the data to look like and be shaped like, right? And then you go about stamping that out across all your systems of record. And Syncari is what is powering that transformation, normalization, standardization.
Yeah, because from a tactical level, the contact in Salesforce is different than the contact schema in HubSpot, but they both deal with people.
That's right.
And it's the same person. So probably that same person is identified by an email, but maybe there is some other way of identifying that person with a combination of fields.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think I'll pull the curtains on the dot. Ooh, one more from Steve. Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Will we be able to create a data management dashboard where we can track things like new leads by month, dupes, number of dupes per month, et cetera?
Hey, Steve, anything you can imagine as an entity, you could then, with this authoring capability, you could create cards and dashboards to track. So yes.
Awesome. Score, he says. That's good.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, feel free to reach out to Greg or me directly if you have any additional questions. We're happy to be a resource for you offline. You can connect with us on LinkedIn if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for the first Syncari 101. Feel free to drop us a note with your feedback as well. We're always looking for ways to improve these for future events. Greg, thank you so much for being such an awesome, well, I guess panelist, content contributor today. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me, Aaron.
All right,
and thanks everyone for showing up.
We'll see you on the next one.
Okay. See ya.